WWE doubled their pay-per-view output in 1995, adding 5 of the new concept 2-hour in-your-house pay-per-views to go along with the established Big Four and the King of the Ring. Sadly, this wasn't because the product itself was twice as good as previous years. On the contrary, 1995 is often looked at as one of the most creatively bankrupt years in the company's history, with cartoony gimmicks and naff storylines taking a front seat as the company continued to struggle against a resurgent WCW, who themselves added more order-only events and would also debut a little show called Nitro, kicking off the Monday Night Wars. Vince McMahon was persevering with his new generation of stars, featuring Diesel, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, the British Bulldog, Sid, and The Undertaker above all others. A hell of a lineup of Hall of Fame talent, I'm sure you'll agree, but it was sort of negated by the mega push of Mabel, the reliance on celebrities and real sports stars to carry the biggest show of the year, and, lest we forget, the introduction of the likes of Mantar, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, Santa Claus, Avatar, and Fantasio. Business was down and interest in the product was clearly waning, but how did that affect things when it came to the major shows? Let's find out. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is every WWE pay-per-view of 1995 ranked from worst to best. Join us. Number 10, King of the Ring. Ah, great. Why not start with one of the absolute worst shows, and I'm not just talking about wrestling here, of all time. One of the most fantasy-booked shows ever, King of the Ring 1995 was an occasion where WWE got all the big decisions wrong, and sadly, there was no superior wrestling action to overcome the bad booking, because the standard of the matches was pretty darn terrible as well. In the King of the Ring tournament finals, Mabel downed Savio Vega. Must have been a real Sophie's Choice moment for the creative staff there, in a totally worthless bout to become king. Earlier in the night, Savio got victories over Yokozuna and the Roadie, while the future Viscera shockingly beat The Undertaker and got a bye to the finals after Shawn Michaels and Karma wrestled to a listless 15-minute time limit draw. The common consensus heading into the show was that HBK or the Phenom would win the tournament, and I'm sure if WWE had to do it all again, that's the way they would go. The best of the tournament matches was, I kid you not, the Roadie against Bob Holly. Outside of the tournament itself, Bret Hart beat Jerry Lawler in a Kiss My Foot match, which was certainly a lowlight in their 2-year feud, and would lead to the introduction of Isaac Yankem DDS. And in the main event, WWE Champion Diesel teamed with Bam Bam Bigelow to fend off Tatanka and Sid in a contest that would have been just about passable as a house show headliner. Rock, meet bottom. Number 9, In Your House 4, Great White North. Things are better, but not by much, with the 4th In Your House event, which comes with the tagline Great White North, so you can probably guess where it's taking place. It ain't Acapulco. The biggest story coming out of the show was Shawn Michaels getting stripped of the Intercontinental title due to the incident in Syracuse where he was beat up by a bunch of angry Marines. Due to the forfeiture, the Heartbreak Kid sidestepped a scheduled job to Dean Douglas. How bloody convenient, eh? Not that the franchise would get to hold the strap here, as Shawn Michaels' clique buddy Razor Ramon beats him very easily for the title in an impromptu match. After getting politicked out of the title and realizing there was no chance for upward mobility with several of the major players working against him, Douglas would leave the company within a matter of months. In the main event of this utterly pedestrian and forgettable show, Diesel retained the WWE title against the British Bulldog via DQ when Bret Hart ran in. This pay-per-view certainly could have used a decent Bret Hart match because there's not much else to recommend, besides a tidy tag team title match between the Smoking Guns and Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid. Other than that, Hunter Hearst Helmsley beat Make a Difference Fatu in a so-so bout. Goldust beat Marty Jannetty in a very disappointing match, which was more about getting the Goldust character over than anything else. And Yokozuna and King Mabel fought to a double countout in a total freak show match. That said, if you like morbidly obese fellas waddling around and botching spots, and I know at least some of you do, then you should enjoy this one. Number 8, WrestleMania 11. Considering how poor the year was overall, it's no surprise that the 11th WrestleMania was underwhelming and has gone on to be viewed as one of the weakest Manias ever. A large factor in that is the main event, pitting American football star Lawrence Taylor against Bam Bam Bigelow. An obvious grasp for mainstream coverage, the inclusion of LT certainly got WWE some column inches, but all these years later and removed from its context, it simply doesn't have the same impact. Especially not with folks like myself who don't care about his own country's football, let alone that American stuff, and would have just as happily had Billy Gunn headlining the showcase of the Immortals. As for the match itself, it's good thanks largely to the Beast from the East and referee Pat Patterson, who was there to keep the thing together by calling spots and delivering instructions, but Taylor played his part too, and it's certainly far from the worst thing involving a celebrity or real sports star in wrestling. Celebrities were the theme of the evening and were utilised to add a bit of sparkle to the WWE title match, as Jenny McCarthy and Pamela Anderson accompanied Diesel and Shawn Michaels to ringside. The match itself was good, as the dudes with attitudes gelled nicely, despite the odd crowd reactions. Elsewhere, Bret Hart got his win back in an I Quit match with Bob Backlund. Roddy Piper was guest ref. Nowhere near the level of their other matches, this has to go down as the excellence of execution's weakest outing at the granddaddy of them all. And something similar can be said for The Undertaker's routine victory over King Kong Bundy, which was also rather dull. Owen Hart and surprise partner Yokozuna's tag team title victory over the Smoking Guns was decent, as was Razor Ramon and Jeff Jarrett's IC title scrap, finish aside. And in the opener, Davey Boy and Lex Luger, under the frankly awesome moniker of the Allied Powers, phoned it in their expected victory over the Blue Brothers. Number 7, In Your House 1. The very first In Your House started well and got progressively worse, but hey, at least it started well. Who better to kick off the show than Kanyon? Sorry, I meant Bret Hart, though no disrespect to Kanyon obviously, who put in a customarily great performance against the enigmatic Hakushi in a very good match full of exchanges and moves and sequences that you simply didn't see too often in WWE rings during this era. After that was a not too shabby handicap match pitting Razor Ramon against Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie, culminating with run-ins from Aldo Montoya and Savio Vega. Mabel destroyed Adam Bomb in a total squash to qualify for the King of the Ring. It begins. Owen and Yoko swatted aside the Smoking Guns in a tag team title match. Bret pulled double duty to lose to Jerry Lawler in a short match. WWE then gave away a house, because why not? Hell, that gives me an idea. Stay tuned to Cultaholic.com, where in 6 months we'll be randomly selecting one lucky winner who will receive their very own brand new Fiat Punto. All you have to do is pick it up from the garage outside my flat, pay me 80 quid, replace the engine and book it in for its MOT. And in the main event, Diesel's WWE title run stuttered along to a blur DQ against Sid. Number 6, SummerSlam. SummerSlam 95 laid bare the inconsistencies that plagued WWE during this troubling year. Let's start with the main event, only called so because it went on last, since as a match and as an attraction, it was the pits. In it, Diesel retained his WWE title over King Mabel in 10 of the longest minutes you're bound to see headlining a major pay-per-view. Obviously, Mabel wasn't ready, either as a character or as a worker, to main event at this point, and Big Daddy Cool certainly wasn't the guy to carry him, though he gave it the old college try anyway. Oh, how he would have loved to have been in there with one of his clique buddies, all of whom were in prominent positions elsewhere on the card. 2 of them stole the show with an Intercontinental title ladder rematch which, while it didn't eclipse their historic effort from WrestleMania 10, was certainly one of the best, if not the best matches of the year. Michaels got his win back here after entering a routinely breathtaking performance. In the show's opener, the Click's Kid did the honors for the spectacular Hakushi in a match that had its moments but overall should have been better. And the Click's alleged bag handler, some greenhorn called Hunter Hearst Helmsley, made his WWE pay-per-view debut, beating Bob Holly in a technically competent match that nonetheless didn't exactly linger long in the memory. The Undertaker downed Karma, the supreme fighting machine, aka the Godfather sporting a flat top and a crappy red singlet, in an alright casket match. Bret Hart excellently executed Isaac Yankem, Kane sporting big blue pants and rotten teeth, in a match that was admirably good considering Glenn Jacobs' experience level at the time. We can all thank the Pink and Black Attack for this minor miracle. Bertha Faye beat Alundra Blaze to become women's champion in around 5 minutes. The Smoking Guns beat the Blue Twins in similarly quick fashion, and in a match playing off one of the more intriguing storylines of the time, Barry Horowitz clashed with Body Donna Skip. Horowitz, a long-time loser, had picked up his first WWE win against Skip a few weeks beforehand, and after a perfectly watchable match, got another big and very popular victory here. Number 5, In Your House 5, Seasons Beatings. Something of a one-match show, but what a match it was. Season's Beatings was a decent way to say goodbye to what had been a pretty rotten year. In the top liner, new WWE champion Bret Hart made a successful first defense against the British Bulldog. A minor classic, this was much different from their IC title bout at SummerSlam a few years earlier, but was great in its own right, featuring a bloody hitman doing whatever he could to eke out a victory against his brother-in-law. The rest of the show couldn't hold a candle to that masterclass, naturally, but it's a short show and the good stuff takes up more time than the bad. Razor Ramon and Marty Jannetty's opening match win over Sid and the 1-2-3 Kid wasn't terrible, and Ahmed Johnson squashing Buddy Landel got its point across nicely. Hunter Hearst Helmsley won a surprisingly solid Arkansas Hogpen match against Henry Godwinn. Well worked and entertaining despite the silly stips, this was an early indication that this Triple H fella might be one to watch. Also, he got covered in pig poop. Lol. Diesel showed a little more bite as he battled Owen Hart but lost via DQ, and The Undertaker destroyed Mabel in a casket match to end that experiment and send the future Viscera packing for a few years. Number 4, In Your House 3, Triple Header. A novel stipulation in the main event tag team match added a lot of intrigue to the third In Your House pay-per-view, as the Intercontinental Champion Shawn Michaels and WWE Champion Diesel partnered to battle tag team champions Yokozuna and Owen Hart, though the Rocket was mysteriously absent and replaced with the British Bulldog. The hook was that whoever took the pin lost the title to the person that beat them. So, in theory, Yokozuna could have pinned Michaels to become IC champ, and Bulldog could have done the same to Diesel to become WWE champ. None of that happened, of course, though, as the Dudes with Attitudes won the match when Big Daddy Cool jackknifed Owen Hart, who wasn't in the match, leading to the result being overturned the next night. As a match, it was decent enough. Much better was Bret Hart's encounter with Jean-Pierre Lafitte. Now, ignore the fact that one of the best ever was feuding with a pirate over a stolen ring jacket for just a second and appreciate the action, which was exemplary, and should have made the One-Eyed Wonder a star, all things considered. Another clinic in a series of them for the Hitman this year. The rest of the show was absolutely fine, with nothing there to ruin it. Savio Vega scored an upset when he beat Waylon Mercy in a surly match. Sid beat Henry Godwinn, British Bulldog beat Bam Bam Bigelow in a nifty power match, and Dean Douglas got a weak win over Razor Ramon, though the match itself wasn't bad. Don't worry, the bad guy would, of course, have the last laugh. Number 3, In Your House 2, The Lumberjacks. Ah yes, the second In Your House special, aka The Lumberjacks, where every wrestler had to perform in jeans and plaid shirts, and the only way to win was by splitting your opponent in two with an axe. Not really, of course, but that would have been worth watching, wouldn't it? Not that this one wasn't worth watching, mind you, as there was plenty of good stuff to be found here. The pick of the bunch was Shawn Michaels' incredible Intercontinental triumph over Jeff Jarrett, as HBK and Double J worked an absolute stunner. In what is likely Jarrett's best ever match, he and Michaels seamlessly pieced together a red-hot bout that built and built to a fever pitch before the boy toy hit sweet chin music for the popular title switch. The main event naturally couldn't quite keep pace with it, but the WWE title lumberjack match between Diesel and Sid was much better than their effort at the first In Your House. Big Sexy got the win with the big boot because, please, Sid's not gonna get up for the jackknife now, is he? The lads stationed at ringside certainly did their part to make this one interesting too. On the undercard, Yokozuna and Owen Hart retained their tag titles against Bulldog and Lex Luger in a satisfactory match. A clearly unmotivated Bam Bam Bigelow beats Henry Godwinn in an alright one. King Mabel and Sir Mo bested Razor Ramon and Savio Vega in a match that picked up nicely toward the end, but was a trifle plodding most of the way, and the Roadie beat the 1-2-3 Kid in a smart opener. Number 2, Royal Rumble. Ah, the Royal Rumble, where WWE set out their stall for the run-up to WrestleMania. And the first WWE pay-per-view of the year started with a bang, as Jeff Jarrett beat Razor Ramon to become Intercontinental Champion after the match was restarted when the bad guy purposefully got himself counted out. After that rather exciting beginning, it was time for a little nap, so who better to send out than IRS, who stalled and meandered his way through a boring match with The Undertaker. King Kong Bundy waddled out after to set up an epic confrontation with the dead man. Thankfully, things picked up in a big way afterwards, as Bret Hart and Diesel had a dandy of a WWE title match. These two always had good chemistry together, and this match is no exception, taking its time to tell a great story before an unfortunate non-finish, though the bookers didn't leave themselves much choice in this instance. Once the ring had cleared and Big Daddy Cool had saved the Hitman from a drubbing, the two men shook hands and hugged and kissed and made up. After the matches, the two talked over their previous differences in the shower. "Hey man, thanks for really having my back out there tonight. You really helped me out," said Bret. "No problem, buddy. I'll always have your back. And your front too, you cute little thing," said a soaking wet Diesel as he eased his way into Bret's cubicle, and you can read more of my new generation fanfiction by subscribing to our Patreon. That belter was followed up with another, as the ragbag pairing of Bob Sparkplug Holly and the 1-2-3 Kid scored a major upset over Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka to win the tag team titles. More remembered is the post-match, in which the Beast from the East started on Lawrence Taylor, who was stationed at ringside, setting their Mania match in motion. And then the main event, as Shawn Michaels won a short but sweet Royal Rumble, with entrants entering every 60 seconds rather than the customary 90. HBK and the British Bulldog both went the distance, but the sexy boy managed to just about edge it, the finish with Michaels balancing precariously with one foot on the arena floor, done to perfection. The action was inconsistent, as you would expect given a field that included Dick Murdoch, Duke Drosy, Mantar, the Bushwhackers, Aldo Montoya, Well Done, Quang and Doink, but it's a canny little rumble all the same. Number 1, Survivor Series. The best pay-per-view of 1995 was quite comfortably the Survivor Series, which lived up to its name by having not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 traditional Survivor Series tag team matches, as well as 2 other singles bouts on the card. A show of transition, the main event saw the Diesel experiment end as Bret Hart reclaimed the WWE title in a thrilling no-holds-barred match. A great example of storytelling and utilization of surroundings, the Hitman took perhaps the first ever WWE announce table bump in the contest. This was a worthy way to close out the show and a definite high note to end Big Daddy Cool's mammoth title reign. The other singles match on the card, Goldust versus a soon-to-be-gone Bam Bam Bigelow, was ordinary filler, but the traditional Survivor Series tag matches all had an edge to them. The opener, with the underdogs, Barry Horowitz, Hakushi, Marty Jannetty and Bob Holly taking on the Body Donners, Skip, Tom Pritchard, Rad Radford and the 1-2-3 Kid, was an all-action affair that had the crowd going wild. The 1-2-3 Kid was the sole survivor, but everyone got an opportunity to shine. Women's wrestling had a spotlight shone on it too, as WWE drafted in some stars from Japan for a little bit of variety. Aja Kong was the sole survivor of a sometimes ropey but energetic 8-woman elimination tag, teaming with Bertha Faye, Lioness Asuka, no relation, and Tomoko Watanabe to thwart Alundra Blaze, Chaparita Asari, Kyoko Inoue, and Saki Hasegawa. The Undertaker returned after getting his orbital bone shattered by a very clumsy Mabel, forming Team Darkside with backstage Bone Street crew buddies Savio Vega, Fatu and Henry Godwin to defeat the Royals, Mabel, Lawler, Helmsley and Yankum. The Domino enthusiasts got the clean win, and while there wasn't much to it as a match, Taker looked great in his comeback. And in the odd but engaging wildcard match, aka everyone who wasn't on the card in random babyface/heel teams, Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels, Sid and the British Bulldog bested Dean Douglas, Razor Ramon, Owen Hart and Yokozuna, with everyone apart from the Psycho surviving.